आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। गुकारस्त्वन्धकारो वै ऋकारस्त्वन्निवर्तकः अन्धकारनिरोधित्वात् गुरुरित्यभिधीयते। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। नमः श्री शङ्करानन्द गुरुपादाम्बुजन्मने सविलास महामोह ग्राहग्रासैककर्मणे। Let's see. Chant a couple of more shlokas. Let's chant verses 8 and 9 from the first chapter. Number 8 first. Iyamatma paranandaha parapremaspadam yataha manabhuvam hi bhuyasam iti prematmaniksyate. tat tat prematmarthamanyatra tat prematmarthanyat naiva manyarthamatmani atastat paramam tena paramanandat atmanaha. So we were doing verse number 8 last time. Iyamatma paranandaha parapremaspadam yataha manabhuvam hi bhuyasam iti prematmani ikshyate. So prior to this verse, so here actually he's talking about samvit. And so the samvit was defined to be consciousness or knowledge. Exactly the same thing. There's no difference between consciousness and knowledge. And the essence of the experience, I know. This is a very beautiful thing to really just even think about. You just during the day, you can just look at it, that the whole experience in our life is enveloped in, it is covered by, it is held together by I know. This is an important thing. I know. And what I know varies, and this is exactly what verses 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 was pointing out. Shabdasparshadayaha vedyaha vaichitriyat jagare pritham tato vibhaktaha tatsamvit ekarupyatna bhidyate. So what you are seeing, what your thoughts are, what you're objectifying is all different from moment to moment. But enveloping all of that is I know. And in fact, the interesting thing is that even if you don't know something, you know that you don't know. It's the beauty about Ishvara's creation. If you didn't know that you didn't know, the whole creation will just disappear. Because the I know, if it is replaced, if it is displaced, if there is an opposite to I know, then the whole transaction will not, the whole world will not have any transactions in it. It'll be, so this is what is called, it'll be an andha prapancha. Andha prapancha means it's like a blind man's prapancha. And even the blind man's prapancha, just look at this. Supposing someone is congenitally blind. It says, I cannot see, I don't see. But there is consciousness even to see that I don't see anything. This is the beauty of it. We should appreciate that. This means that samvit, this is the samvit. So samvit is one where it never changes, never disappears. And in fact, it will be interesting if it could disappear, we could recognize it that it was something there and now it has disappeared. Like light, as we have discussed it before, that for us to see that the light can be switched off, we can easily identify this is light and this is not light. But the light can never be switched off in the consciousness. The light of consciousness can never be switched off. So therein lies our challenge, that if you cannot objectify it, and you cannot, so if you cannot objectify it means that you cannot see the presence and absence of it in both ways, then you have a different way of identifying. And this is the mistake we make. The mistake we make is that I know samvit is so prevalent. The whole creation is made out of that we're not even cognizant of it. We just said, we just look at things and is it good, bad, this, that, or the other. But we never pay attention to the samvit. Anyway, so that was the crust, the thrust of the very beginning, that please see that the samvit is something which never ever goes. And that is that means there's a lot of logic that flows from it. What logic flows from it? So if it never goes, that means it is independent. You see, because everything else is dependent. Everything else is dependent, whether you are alive. Ultimately, everything depends on whether you are alive or not. Because you can say that my thoughts depend on my brain, and my brain depends upon prana. Like that, you can do karya karana vichara, the effect and cause and effect vichara. Vichara means your analysis. You can keep doing it. And ultimately it goes to I'm alive. How do you know something? Because I'm alive. But samvit is not even dependent on whether you are alive or not. Amazing. It is our assumption, which happens to be a faulty assumption, that when I die, my samvit disappears. It's an assumption. And you can never prove it. You can never prove it. Because you can see why you cannot prove it. If you were to prove it, you need to be someone that could see the disappearance of samvat. This is what we're talking about. You cannot do that. So samvit is something which is totally independent. So the logic of the unchanging samvit is amazing. Let's look at that. That it has to be totally independent, which means that it just the implications are enormous. It does not depend on food. It does not depend on any support. It is swayam siddha. Everything else is parasiddha. And as we will be shown later, that everything else depends on the samvit. And if samvit was going to be dependent on something, that's the one I want to really look at. But it doesn't. Swayam siddha. Implications are amazing. So anyway, the first part of the logic that we saw, starting with number 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, were the two aspects of samvit, which is it is swayam siddha, it is self-existing, and swayam prabha, it shines by itself. It shines by itself. It is existent. And so here existence and shining both have to be resolved in the same vastu. Because to have existence without consciousness doesn't mean anything. You can say that this vastu is always there. How do you know it? You can only say that it is by logic. Perhaps there must be something which doesn't change. In fact, the closest thing that comes to something which is jada, one which is jada meaning one which is inert, and is closest thing to Atma is Akasha, the space. Because the space is relatively very independent, except for, even there it is not completely independent. It comes close, but it's not completely independent. In deep sleep, space disappears. Because space is a concept. It's a concept, it's a thought. And the mind is not there in deep sleep, so therefore the thought also is not there, and therefore the Akasha is also not there. That's our experience. You can't say, I saw Akasha. If you saw it, it is because of your dream, but not in deep sleep. So going back to the fact that nothing else is independent. Oh yeah, so what I was pointing out was that existence and knowledge have to resolve in the same thing. Because you cannot say that there is something which is self-existent, but it is jada, which is inert. There's no such thing as that. So the jadatvam also depends upon chetanatvam, towards consciousness. So anyway, to summarize, both Swayam Siddhatvam, the status of being self-existent, and Swayam Prabha Tvam, I don't know if I can use Tvam with Prabhatvam, is which is in the last part of number 7. Naudeti na astameti eka samvit esha Swayam Prabha. So now the Sat and the Chit were both expounded logically in the lakshana of Sambit. So I'm leading up to it in a logical way. So there is a lakshana. Lakshana means what defines something uniquely is called lakshana. Like for example, if you were to define a cow, which is an often example given in here, then the udders of the cow from milk is taken, and also the very shape of the cow, the 4 feet, and the gentleness of it, and so on, is the lakshana of the cow. There's no other animal in the whole world that shares that lakshana. So that is what is called lakshana. So the lakshana of Samvit, now you can define, is Swayam Siddhatvam and Swayam Prabhatvam. Nothing else in the world is like that. You should see that. Don't even argue with it, because it won't stand. That is the uniqueness of Samvit. Having said that, the next question that we have is, okay, I can see that, but where is it? So now we say that the lakshana of Samvit, which is only 2/3, the third one comes in verse number 8, and the lakshana of me, the Atma, is the same. The lakshana of Samvit and the lakshana of Atma is the same. And because they cannot be, because otherwise you violate the lakshana of something. Lakshana means that there are 2 things having similar lakshanas. Then the word lakshana also does not really fulfill the promise of the word lakshana, because it has to be unique. You cannot have 2 unique things. So if you really want to be sincere about the word unique, there must be only one thing, and there is only one thing. So the Samvit is just a start, but it ends in Atma. So in the verse number 8, Iyam Atma. So now the equation of the Samvit and the Atma is now given. Iyam Atma. So now we should really look upon this as a manifestation of the words for me, the Atma. So now the third lakshana was pointed out in the verse number 8. First 2 were Swayam Siddhatvam, Swayam Siddha, Swayam Prabha. The third one is Anandaha. Anandaha. And not only Anandaha, but Paranandaha. The ultimate joy. The ultimate joy. And so here in the in the analysis of joy, of happiness, this will be unfolded in more words, in more verses than one. But the start is given in verse number 8. And now this is, I'll just briefly revise it, which we did 2 weeks ago, and then go ahead. So what we saw in the verse number 8 were two things. One was the first line, and the second one is the second line. So I don't know if you had a chance to review the classes before you got here. I know that with holidays it might have been difficult, but it's a good habit. Please do that. So the two segments of joy and ananda were as follows. So this is an important thing for us to logically see and relate it to our own personal experiences in life. So the two segments of ananda, which were given which are given in verse number 8, are as follows. The first one is, so here the key words that are used on both the segment is prema. Prema is love. Is love. Love means what you really want. It's not just a casual something. So the love is a very strong desire. Something that we really want is called love. I love it. Although these words are now used very casually. You know? I love it. You just say it. If somebody shows something to you and says, "This, how's it?" "Oh, I love it." You don't even know what it is. But so the word love represents really a deep emotion. And so both in the first line and the second line, the word prema is used. So now let's look at the first segment. In the first line, it says, please see that you do not really love anything unless it gives you joy. It seems like an obvious kind of a thing, but we need to sort of keep that in mind as we project it in our logic throughout it. And so this is the first law, very unassailable law. You do not love something that gives you dukkha of any kind. Swami Maheswaranji gives an example of the typical Indian marriage where you have an arranged marriage, and then in the very beginning you don't love anybody. It's a total stranger. Even a child born to a woman doesn't engender total love right away, because it seems like it's a part of my body, and you're attached to it, but the love comes when the child starts to respond. The love takes a little while. So in Swamiji's example also, in this arranged marriage, the woman starts to appreciate the husband and loves him. Then the husband starts to be rough with her and expects this and expects that. You don't know how to cook. Where did you learn? You didn't learn anything, did you? It happens in all of our, in not all, but in many other cases. And belittles her and so on and so forth. Perhaps there was no physical violence of any kind. That could also be there, but it's just the verbal, Pretty soon she cannot love this man. Thus absolutely cannot. Hey, this arranged marriage is a very interesting thing, really. Because we have seen cases where it was a complete misfit, but it carries on. because of the societal changes and so on. Anyway, going back to this, you cannot love someone unless he or she gives you some joy. So this is rule number one. In is corollary to this first rule is that you never cease to love yourself. Never. You may cease to love something else because of something, but you never cease to love yourself. Here, Swami Maheshanji gives this example that this was this, and I may have given it to you, I'm just revising, that this woman had a wonderful diamond ring on her finger. We have a friend, I was telling you that we have a friend who just loves to flash her diamonds on her finger. And my wife and I look at each other and snicker. So whenever she's bored, she's looking at her diamond. She's not listening to anybody else or something like that. She's just like this. She does like this. She's in love with the diamond. That is her possession, and it has more carats than anybody else, and she loves that fact. Swamiji says, supposing she and her husband are going in a train, and they accost a robber with a gun. And he says, hey lady, give me that ring. She says, no. This is the dearest thing. I cannot give you this ring. Give it to me. Just don't waste my time. She says, no. She says, okay, here's a revolver. You want to die and I'm going to take your diamond, or do you want to be alive? So her husband says, give it to her. Give it to him. So even this diamond that she loves, she gives it to him. You know why? Because she loves herself. So everything else is, and then the comparative love will come in the next, so I won't go into that very much. But just the fact that the Atma is the ultimate source of love. So this word aspadam, prema aspadam, the word aspadam means the source. Important word, aspadam yataha. What gives you prema is the ananda. Because what gives you prema, what gives you love is ananda. So the ananda is the source of your prema. And the Atma is never not. So there we saw an objection. There was this guy who was climbing up the Qutub Minar, and he was ready to commit suicide. And his friend kept saying, no, don't commit suicide. No, it'll be better, it'll be all. She says, no, she doesn't love me. I wanted to marry her, and she doesn't want to marry me, and so on and so forth. So while this guy is just thinking, he calls up this woman. He says, hey, he's ready to commit suicide. Why don't you just marry him? You're close to it anyway. You were evaluating two people. And he's not that different, He actually has got more money than the other guy. So she says, okay, all right. I don't want to have the murder on my hands. So he immediately rushes and says, she's agreed to marry you. He says, really? He comes down. He comes down and says, oh, wonderful. So the suicide also, actually, interestingly enough, if you analyze it, suicide also reflects a love for the Atma. How? You can ask, how? Because what you are using to evaluate yourself is the mind. And the mind is a function of your relationships with others. And if that goes bad, you say, I cannot stand it. So you cannot say, I cannot stand it unless you have a reference point. You see? Unless you have a reference point, you say that I cannot stand this state of affairs. There must be something better than this. This also reflects the love of the Atma. That the way I'm living in this life is not acceptable to me. This also represents the love of the Atma. So anyway, I won't spend any more time on this, but this represents the first line, Iyam Atma. So now we can say the Atma and the Samvit have been equated. Iyam Samvit is the Atma, and it is Parananda. Parananda means not just ordinary Ananda, but the ultimate Ananda. So the word para or param is used, which outlasts everything else is called para. Which alone remains when everything else disappears. And that is the Atma. And it turns out that the Atma is Swayam Siddha, Swayam Prabha, and that one is the Ananda, Paramananda. So here, as you know very well, we ended the last class. In fact, let me go to the second line very quickly. I won't spend that much time on the second line, and then I will complete this thought that I started. So the second line says, Mana bhuvam hi bhuyasam iti prema atmani ikshyate. So there are two segments of Ananda. What are those two? The first one is that you do not love something until it gives you Ananda. This is the first one. The second one is that you never get tired of it. You want to continue forever. I want to be Ananda. I don't know how to do it. That's a separate thing. But my intent is that my sense of Ananda should never be broken. This is the second line. And that's all I will say for the time being, fairly obvious. Now to continue the thought that I had started, is really an important one, and then we will develop this over time, and perhaps not even in this class. This is the one where a lot of thought has to be given. Someone can ask, this is very strange. If I am the ultimate source of Ananda, and I agree with that, you appear to show me that I am the ultimate object of love is myself, and so on and so forth. Why is it that my attention is into trivial things and not into the Atma? Why is that? If Atma was the most important thing that I should know about, it's ultimate source, nothing in the whole world equals it, then I should immediately just be turned towards the Atma. But that doesn't happen. All I want is some ice cream and some cookies and a cup of tea and coffee. This is what I really want. Trivial things. I know they don't last, and here you're talking about Atma and so on and so forth. So this is an important topic where we will develop it over time. But the genesis of that is just because you are familiar with the Atma, which you're familiar in the Atma means that's you. How can you not be familiar with yourself? Just because you are acquainted with it, you are seeing it. You do not appreciate its beauty and attractiveness until you are qualified to understand its beauty and attractiveness. Just because you are looking at it doesn't mean anything. Even though you are the one, you are making a huge mistake. And in fact, the beauty and the attractiveness of the Atma is covered, called avarana. And as you start to uncover it, you begin to see the beauty and the attractiveness of the Atma. But you have to grow into it. And here, Swami Maheshananji, I don't know how he picked up this interesting example, and I gave it to you last time. That here's this very attractive 19-year-old girl. Beautiful, developed, well-developed, lovely looking, and so on and so forth. And there are two brothers who walk into the room. One of them is a 5-year-old boy, and the other one is a 20-year-old man. And she actually gives the 5-year-old a big hug. And immediately started chatting with him. He also sees her. But you think that he appreciates her beauty and attractiveness? Not yet. Not yet. Compared to the 20-year-old, he puts his eyes on her and he says, "Oh my God, how did this beauty come into my life? Who is she? I want to immediately find out." And these days he will Google it. And different ideas come into his mind. This is the one I would love to get to know. Why? Because that kind of passion and sexual attraction and so on has not yet happened to the 5-year-old. So even though they are both looking at the same woman, but the background through which he would actually be attracted in a different way has not yet happened. Not yet happened. This is what needs to happen to us. From the standpoint of spiritual growth, we are like a 5-year-old. Innocent, cannot appreciate. This 20-year-old has some things are happening inside. It's just amazing. The 5-year-old is just sort of looking at her and said, "What a nice woman. Yeah, she had a candy for me, and she's talking to me," and so on and so forth. This is exactly our situation. We do not appreciate ourselves, even though we are the Parama Prema Aspadam Yataha. And so here, I'll give you an important quotation. I was going to look it up to see which Upanishad it was from, but I forgot to do it. So here it says, for those of you that have this Hindi book on page 26, Tam etam Veda anuvachanena brahmanaha vivitichanti yagyena danena tapasa anashakena. This is a very important. And what it says is that your appreciation for yourself requires some work on your part to grow. And tam etam Veda anuvachanena. You have to follow what the Veda is saying about you. The pramanam of the Shruti has to be followed. Then, through the yajna, dana, and tapas, you have to withdraw your attention from trivial things. And this is called vividisha. Vividisha means jnatumuccha. Jnatumuccha means an intense desire to understand the beauty and the attractiveness of the Atma. And so this is an interesting thing. I had a very interesting discussion with Swami Viditatmananda on this point when he was last here. So in our tradition, there are some emphasis on a couple of different things on how to gain this appreciation of the Atma. And so there are some schools of thought which are not contradicting each other, but they are slightly different. So I want you to understand that. The two different ones are, one is called Antakarana Shuddhi, means the purity of your mind. Purity of the mind, as we have seen already in some of the classes, but perhaps not in this class, it means that you are not unnecessarily distracted by trivial things. You have the ability to appreciate something very subtle. It's like a tuning of the mechanism. When the mechanism is not tuned, like for example, supposing you don't have some instrument to look at some very small bugs, like a microscope, and the microscope is not tuned, you cannot see the microscope. But if the microscope is available and you carefully tune it, then that can be called a Shuddhi. In fact, I would make two distinctions in it. So let me give you both the words. One is called Antakarana Shuddhi, and the other one is called Chitta Ekagrata. Chitta Ekagrata. So Chitta Ekagrata means a contemplation, meditation, focus is Chittam Ekagrata. So from that standpoint, now that I've given you both the paths, from the standpoint of an instrument that you are using to see a bug, small bug that you cannot see through naked eye, has two elements to it. One element is that the mirror and the glass of the microscope needs to be clean. And the other is that it needs to be tuned. So therefore, in our life, we have to be very cognizant of both of these sadhanas. And so, in this quotation, Tametam Veda Anuvachanena Brahmanaha Vividishanti Yagyena Danena Tapasa Anashakena, the Yagyena Danena Tapasa is cleaning, and Vividishanti is tuning. Is tuning. So what it means is that first we need to have Shraddha with the help of logic. So listen to this carefully. You have to have Shraddha towards the Shruti with the help of logic that I am indeed the ultimate source of Ananda. Because it is contrary to my experience. Contrary, completely contrary. Don't feel good about myself. I have a low opinion about myself, not even a normal opinion. Everybody feels. So, for them to say that you are the ultimate source of Ananda, it is the same as Ishvara, is something that I am not willing to accept right away. The Shastra says, listen, I am not fooling you. I have no reason to fool you. I don't want anything from you. If you don't want to listen to me, it's up to you. But this is the fact. Look into it. And then you can argue, then how come I don't see it? The reason you don't see it is because you're like a 5-year-old. You have to develop the qualities where you can appreciate the beauty and the attractiveness of the Atma. What else can we say? And you ask all these wise people, they say that's exactly what needs to happen. So the Vividisha means Gyatumichha is a focus, single-minded focus. Because what happens is that you doubt the veracity of what the Shruti is saying. You doubt your own capability of following through with it. And so you say, as we say in India and Hindi, chalta hai. It goes on. It's just too much for me. Well, sooner or later you have to do it. You should do it. And so to reverse your thinking and to really start to, we have limited emotional energy in our life. And exactly like I was saying before, you have a choice of either just doing symptomatic relief or really the very disease itself. And you say, I don't have the time to go to the disease. Okay, fine. All right, just suffer. He says, no, I have been able to do ointments, and I think I'll continue to do that. Okay, fine. All right, do it. And it keeps coming up, sometimes gets very serious, and then you start thinking about it. Maybe I should have done it. So, Vividisha, and Vividisha means here, Swamiji defines Vividisha. In Hindi he says, Is Vividisha ka roop kya hoga? I'll translate it in a minute. उसकी जो आनंद रूपता प्रकट नहीं है, वह प्रकट हो जाए वही विविदिशा है. Beautiful. He says Vividisha means that the Atma as your own self-experience of joy is not yet manifested in you. You do not appreciate it. For you to appreciate it and to learn to appreciate it is called Vividisha. And you cannot learn to appreciate it until you are going in that direction. So anyway, so this is an introduction to the third lakshana of the Atma. So the third lakshana of the lakshana, the definition of the uniqueness of the definition of the Atma is now complete. So those three elements of the lakshana, they're not different things, but different aspects of it are Swayam Siddha, Swayam Prabha, and Paramananda. I mean, look at again the beauty of the creation by Ishvara, that the ultimate goal of each one of us, the ultimate goal of the whole creation is to understand that your nature will be something which will be full ananda and something which is independent and no one can disturb it. Wow. This is the ultimate goal of human. What a lovely creation. And in the meantime, we have some minor sufferings and so on and so forth. But if we just continue to understand the reality of it, to understand the reality of it is we are done. The truth of it, we are done. So our job is to understand the truth of it. So when I sent you that note on the New Year's, the Swarupa and Swabhava. So the question is that we keep on improving our Swabhavas. And that's fine. You can keep doing it up to a while. And so the Yajnena, Danena, Tapasa is to improve the Swabhava. But if you think that you're going to achieve the ultimate by simply doing things, you're not going to happen. In fact, you improve your ability through Antakarna Shuddhi, through Tapasa, Jnanena, Yajnena, so on and so forth, but only to the point that you begin to appreciate the beauty of the Atma. And the more so it's an iterative process. The more you appreciate, because right now, you think nothing about the self, except when you just feel good about some experiential joy. And that confuses you even more. You have some experience that gives you a joy, and then you want to repeat that experience. Again, that is a rejection of the Atma, because experiential joy is not Atma. But at this point, you are belittling the Atma completely. But then to actually take some baby steps to say, well, maybe let me give the Shruti a chance. And to that extent, you don't spend time on unnecessary things, and you begin to appreciate the Atma. And just the baby steps itself, themselves will give you the confidence that yes, it's possible. And then it'll disappear again. So the habits will then go back and forth, but slowly you begin to see that really I completely misunderstood myself. And that path slowly through Chitta Ekagrata is Vividisha. Then slowly the self-joy will become more predominant in your life. And you will begin to see that just by sitting quietly, it doesn't mean that I'm bored. I am actually have a chance to appreciate who I am. And so that whole process brings you to the progress where you begin to turn the whole thing around. Anyway, so enough of that part of it. So let's now go to verse number 9, where this is continued in another way, just to prove. So we saw when we, in fact, we did not see the word meaning. So let's look at the word meaning of verse number 9. So he says, Tat prema atma artham anyatra na evam anyartha atmani atastat paramam tena paramanandata atmana. So it says, anyatra all the other things, my love for other things, elsewhere, anyatra here means elsewhere, yet whatever prema or love that I have, ultimately is for atma artham. So I'm just giving you the word meaning and then explain the whole meaning later. On the other hand, at no time my love for the Atma is due to for some other reason other than myself. So what he's saying through the first line is that please see this law, that my love for anything else is only meant for me, for my love, but my love is not meant for anything else. You see the logic? It'll become a little clearer when you explain it. But just the word meaning, it says that my love for other things is not for the sake of other things, but for me. And my love for me is not for the sake of anything else. That's the correct definition. Then the second line says, Ataha, therefore, through this logic, Ataha, tat paramam tena paramatmanandata atmanaha. Therefore, the nature of being the ultimate ananda actually fits me. Why does it only fit me? Because there is no dependency on my love for myself. There's no qualification. That's right, not dependency. There's no qualified love for me. So this is the thing. Another way to look at it is that the love for myself is unqualified. The love for other things is qualified. And when can that be? Not as though just take my word for it or anything like that. That can only be if my Swarupa is Ananda. We were using the word prema, love, but love of course means two things. So here you can say love for myself is kind of a funny thing because love really means two things. But here the subject and the object are the same. So really you can use the word ananda instead of prema. But for other things you can use word prema, love. I love you. That means there are two people and I have a fondness towards you. But you cannot say I have fondness towards me because it is natural. You can say that I appreciate myself, I like myself the way I am, or that I don't like myself. That's a different thing. But the source of love, as we were discussing in the previous verse, is the same. Anyway, I don't want to go into that, but let's just go back to the main one. So let's look at the English translation of that, just to summarize. Whatever love one has elsewhere, in wife, husband, children, etc., that is for the sake of oneself. In this manner, the love for Atma is not for the sake of others. Therefore, that love for oneself is the most exalted. So paramam means, the word exalted is used. Exalted here means is the ultimate. One which outlasts everything else. Thereby, the nature of Atma, being limitless Ananda, is proven, is proved. So these are the words. So now let's look at the explanation. So, here Swamiji says that, for example, the love for a spouse, in this case from the standpoint of a man, the love for his wife is because she does things for him that is very pleasing to him. She takes care of him, she's very close to him, she's his sexual partner, and he cooks and so on and so forth. So in that, the love for the wife is conditional. Okay, so now we're going to just focus on this part, the conditionality of love. So just look at that. when you say I love someone, automatically why I love someone is at the background. And then Swamiji says, supposing she ceases to be a loving person for him. He does all kinds of crazy things. And let's suppose that she's having an affair with someone. And furthermore, she's cheating and doesn't, so on and so forth. Now her love for her will disappear. Because if it was not conditional, he would love her regardless of what she does. But that's not the case. Anytime his love for her comes around, it has to be supported by lots of other things. So really what it means is that when you love someone, the ultimate reason is that you love yourself. Because look at this is a very important thing. That without trying, without proving to yourself, without conditioning for putting conditions on it and so on and so forth, you love yourself. And that becomes the reference point for the expression of love for others. If the love for others is consistent with the love for yourself, your love for yourself remains the same. But the love for that person disappears because it's going in the opposite direction. So please do this. For those of you that are not spouses both sitting here together, go home and say, I need to talk to you. I have a serious discussion with you. And I have to do a confession. So your spouse will say, what? What confession? What's going on? You just sit down. I just want to talk to you. You know, all this time that I said, I love you, I lied. I really love myself. I don't love you. And what it means is that you better keep on behaving yourself because I'll stop loving you, which is the fact. Exactly, this is what happens. But no such conditionality is put on yourself. Just imagine that. And if that conditionality is put, as in the case of a suicide or some other drastic action, it is because you are putting a difference between yourself and your mind. Because I don't feel good. And I don't like the fact that I don't feel good. There also, as I was saying earlier, I'm just repeating myself, the fact that you don't feel good and is unacceptable to you also confirms the love for yourself. I don't want to be like this, and I am not like this. I don't like to have this bad set of experiences. So that is what is being talked about in this verse. Tat prema atmartham na yanyatra na evam anya artham atmani. So your love for yourself is not for the sake of someone else. So now there is a doubt which is put together. He says that supposing your loved one, your daughter or your son is in trouble, and you are giving some parts of your body, like a kidney, to your son or your daughter. How is that? Doesn't that violate the fact that you always come first? What is it? Trump says America comes first. So here we come first. That's what Shastra is saying. That you come first in the way you lead your life. So it's interesting. He doesn't mean the America comes first. He comes first.
Yeah.
So that actually is following the Shastra. He's just blatant about it. We are a little bit nice and we just keep it quiet, but really it's true for all of us. So in this example, he gives the kidney to his child. What about that? So Swamiji says that really there is dharma in my life. And if I don't follow dharma, then I cannot live with myself. So that is also for my own sukha. And so the dharma says, or for example, here the dharma is, I don't give kidneys to anyone. You're not expected to give kidneys to anyone, because there are thousands, millions of people that need your kidneys, but you don't give it. But if there is someone very close to you, and supposing the doctor says, we have checked your blood type and your son's blood type, they're the same, and your kidney will fit him just fine. Please give it. And you say, nope, I am not parting with my kidneys. No way. Everybody will say, what kind of a person is this? You'll have a difficulty. It's like Arjuna. When Krishna says to Arjuna, come on, keep on fighting. And he says, no, I just want to go to Rishikesh and just do meditation. So he said, do you know what will happen to you? You think you're doing a big job of just doing meditation and looking at Ishvara and something. People are going to spit on you. They'll say, this is the guy that ran away from. So similarly here also, if you don't give the kidney to your son, people are going to say, what kind of a person is that? And so you have to follow dharma towards that. But that is also for your own self-satisfaction. And if you, for example, die because of that, it won't happen, but supposing you're willing to live with that. You say, this is me. So this is also an interesting thing, really speaking, that our life and transactions, our willingness to die, willingness to fight, all this so on and so forth, is also something because deep down below I know I am infallible. By that I mean, I think about this quite a bit, that if in fact death was real, you think that things are serious, they'll get even impossibly serious. You'll never be able to transact. If you think that you're going to, really we don't think we're going to die. So this is why this is what happens, you take risks. You jump from buildings and you do all these kinds of things. Deep down below you know I am not going to die. So I die in this body, it's okay, I think. So therefore, even a sacrifice towards others is also a signal of the same thing. Another example he gave was that supposing you are going with someone and the other person forgot a shawl or some covering and it's very cold. You don't mind parting with your shawl as long as the other person feels a little bit better. Why? Because that sense of sacrifice feels very good to you. You have a higher opinion about yourself. If, especially if your spouse is going along with you and she says, "Oh my God, I am so cold," and you're wearing a double sweater, and she says, "I don't know, it's up to you. You go whatever you want to do." First of all, this marriage will not last. Even if it lasts, you will not feel good about yourself. So all of this also is is not violating the premise of this. This should be seen. That really speaking, so what it really means is that this is the Parama Prema Aspadam. So this verse number 9, where it says Tat Prema Atma Artham Anyatra, etc., is simply confirming that I am the Prema Aspadam. So this needs to be thought about. You should see, and another way to look at it, really speaking, I would say that's even a better way to that. The Atma of the Jivatma, is really Paramatma. So you can look upon this as a love for Ishvara. Love for Ishvara. You should appreciate that you are always facing Ishvara. Your ultimate responsibility is towards Ishvara. And it so happens that your nature and Ishvara's nature is the same. In fact, you are none other than the Ishvara. We will, when we discuss this upadhi, this will become a little bit clearer. So we have not built the background for this. But really speaking, what I would say that the feeling of selfishness is a separate thing. But ultimately, you should see that the law of Parama Prema Aspadam is never negated. It is natural to yourself. So anyway, so that's what verse number 9 says. And I think what I will do is pause here and allow for some discussion and questions. But this is going to continue. In the next verse, it's a very beautiful background on the importance of Shruti and Yukti, logic and and I think we've already seen elements of that. So what we have seen is that the two have to be done together. When Shruti says that, listen, you are the ultimate source of joy, then to a certain extent the logic confirms it, as we have been seeing. But you cannot figure it out until Shruti points it out to you. And ultimately, you have, even if you have some difficulties, you have to just go back to the words of the Shruti and keep that as paramount in the way you are looking at things. This is brought about a little bit more clearly in the next verse, which we will do next time. Om Asato Ma Satkamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityor Ma Amritam Gamaya Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Shri Guru Pyo Namaha Hari Om. Questions? Any? Yeah.
So I love myself unconditionally.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't it necessarily follow that anyone else I love, anything else I love is conditional?
Correct. Yes. Very much so. Very much so. Yes. Yeah. Everything else is as this is what in Sanskritam is called nimitta karanam. There has to be a nimitta karanam for my love for others, whereas my love for myself is animitta karanam. There's no reason for it. It's just the way it is, natural. Similarly, for example, this is true for the love, but also for my existence. You know, that I exist is, you cannot go to a doctor and say, can you please tell me if I exist or not? You cannot say that. You can say whether, can you please tell me if my heart is working well or not? Yeah. How you are, you can question, but that you are, you cannot question. So similarly here also, another thing is that am I awareful or not? Is not without. And Ananda is the same way. All three of them are unconditional. Yeah. Yeah.
So can you go from conditional to unconditional? Are there people on higher level like Swami, your guru, or other people on that level? They have loved other people unconditionally.
So not really, no, never. You cannot violate that. All you can say, Shilpa, is that their conditionality is not casual. In other words, they have so their love for people doesn't have an agenda. Doesn't have an agenda. It is really an expression of the love for oneself. Like, so for example, this is discussed a lot in some of the Upanishads. For example, when you love your own family, your daughter, for example, and you love her as your own extension, is what is called Gauna Atma. There's a very, very technical discussion that goes on. It's called Gauna Atma. So the Gauna Atma means that you view the other person as nothing but yourself. You don't see it for everybody else, but for your own child, you have. So for a jnani, that relationship encompasses a lot of people. Not just their own children and students and others and so on and so forth. A sense of forgiveness, tolerance, and love is there. Yet, it is nothing but a conditional love. So in that sense, because they have already discovered the source of their own love, the conditionality is very weak. It doesn't stand in the middle of making any problems. Yeah. Yes, sir.
So in psychology, we use the term narcissism,
narcissistic. Narcissistic,
loving
yes.
themselves. The person who saw a reflection in water fell in love with it.
Yeah, yeah,
so
right.
What is any comment on that?
No, so I think that the narcissism is not the correct appreciation of the Atma. Because you are, yeah, exactly. You know, it is just your own manifestation. Your swabhava is not the swarupa, it's the swabhava. So you like your swabhava, which is a mistake. Their swabhavas can change. They are not.
No wrinkles, no anything, that kind of.
Exactly right. So it's different for that standpoint. Yeah. Yeah.
We should discuss maybe the concept of forgiveness. So for in psychiatrists, they say forgiveness is one of the best things you can do to yourself.
Yes.
But at the same time, it is claimed that self-forgiveness is the hardest.
Yes.
You are hardest on yourself.
Yes, yes.
So how does that align with the concept of self-love?
So the thing is that again, because the self-love is not yet appreciated, you don't understand. There's a lot of confusion about who I am, You're taking your body, mind, and expressions, your svabhava, as yourself. You're taking that. So there, if you have if you have some issues with your own personality, which all of us do, and we have to live with them forever. You see, you can forgive someone else because they are not with you all the time. This is why Sri Krishna points out in the Bhagavad Gita that your mind is your best friend and your mind is your worst enemy. And the reason for that is that, and in fact they say, Bhagavad Gita also, Sri Krishna points out, that out of all the enemies, the most difficult one is your own mind, because it is hidden there and egging you on all the time. And you cannot get rid of it until you tackle it. And so other enemies can come and go. And somebody can, just have a fight with you, but he's gone. Your mind is with you all the time. And so if that's giving you some problems, which is not the real you, but if that's giving you a problem, it's harder to get rid of it. So that part of it is true. Yes, you have to tackle it. Yes. Yes.
Swarupa is the same for everyone.
Correct, yes.
Swabhava is
Different for everyone.
different, but how much of it is truly controllable, or I mean, how much of it is the Purvajanam Vasana?
Oh no, all of that is, everything has to go into it, absolutely.
So is there truly a whole lot in Jiva's control for, basically they have to overcome Swabhava to get to Swarupa?
Correct, correct.
And then how much of that Swabhava?
So it doesn't matter whether you are in control or not. I mentioned in my just a couple of lines in my greetings to you that don't try to solve the Swabhava. Don't try to correct it to a point where now you're very happy, because that's never going to happen. In the Mandukya Karika class, we are defining this word vyavastha and avyavastha. So the swabhava does not really have an order to it, because it is not there. The example is that snake and the rope. The snake, if the snake was really there, then you can say that how do I tackle it?
That's true, but the reality of it is that Swabhava is the predominant reason.
It is
why
in
we
the
are-
beginning, in the beginning. So the way to, if you want to use your words, control Swabhava, is to focus on the Swarupa. And this hawa of the Swabhava will slowly go away. Swami Maheshanji gave this another beautiful example. He says, you have these PC Sarkar and all these other magicians that give you 1,000 rupee note, all of just like this, 1,000 rupee note. And you give it to someone, it looks like 1,000 rupee note. And then what you cannot do is to say, where did you get this thing printed? And which printing press did it? And how much did it really cost you? Because it is not there. It is just some kind of a magic show. And in fact, we had 1,000 rupees notes. He will not be doing the magic show. He'll just be enjoying. He can just produce so many of them. It's not real. So to tackle the swabhava, and you can do it up to a point. You have to be healthy. You have to be, your mind has to be clean. You have to be tolerant and all of that. Also, all of those yajna, all those things are still relevant. But to try to contact Swabhava as something that I'm going to conquer you and I'll have to figure out exactly how it works, it's not going to happen. And you don't need to figure it out. You are already complete as you are. And you better start to appreciate your completeness. Because if you are busy just tackling swabhava, you will never turn around and see your own completeness. Never. It hasn't happened in our million lives. How was it? How will it be any different? The only way to be different is to wake up from it. And you do need some swabhava so that your chances of getting woken up are better. But otherwise, if you say, I'm going to conquer the world, no one has ever done it. Hitler didn't do it. Indira Gandhi didn't do it. No one could conquer the world. They think they are the greatest. Gone. Not possible. Yeah. Yeah.
Did you take this question in the lighter vein? I don't mean to
Oh my God, I don't know what is going to come now.
You brought attention to the point of unconditional love for ourselves, to the Atma.
Mm-hmm.
So I think in this context you had to put down like the love for other people, arranged marriages, spouses, children and all that. If we take this out of context, we are all going to have an argument at home tonight. So I just want you to
No, I'm not going to change anything. It's for you to figure out how you deal with it. That's the truth. No, I mean, you're right. It's not as though we're going to pick a fight or anything like that. It's just that you should yourself be. This is all a self-awareness thing. We should be. So this is called viveka. So the word, as I mentioned in my note also, the discriminative inquiry is our best sword to cut the whole world. And this viveka has to be done quietly without any advertisement from others, without expressing it. You have to internally distinguish between the truth and the untruth, the swarupa from the swabhava. So if you look at the acharyas, they have the highest respect for the word viveki. Viveki. It is not to the one who is a yogi. Not any other word is as important as viveki. Because really, what is capturing us in a sense of imprisonment is aviveka. Atma, anatma, viveka. It's the most important one. And the viveka must also be tested in reality through vairagya. You cannot say, oh, I have viveka, but I just want to eat a lot of ice cream. Because, so what? I have viveka, so I can do anything. No. You have to have vairagya towards. You cannot be captivated by trivial things in life. If your viveka has to be given some concreteness to it, it has to be through vairagya. And a person who has not turned away from the world is not. It means the viveka has not yet been done yet. So ultimately, what we have to do is we can continue to live life as it is, but we should be discriminative in understanding how laws are working. Who am I? What is the nature of love? Where is it coming from? All of that. So this is what constitutes vividisha. This is jnantumichha. This is the desire to know the reality. So this is where Swami Dayanand used to say, and all the acharyas say, that everyone is a mumukshu. Mumukshu means that we want to get away from all dukkha in our life. Everyone. We have lots of dukkha, but we need to. But you cannot do that until you become a student. You have to study how dukkha is being caused. Why is it? And what are the wise people saying about it? What are the ways of Until you do that, you can only do symptomatic relief, not disease relief. So, yeah. I think we're already at 9 o'clock, so we'll see you next week. Shri Krishna, I forgot my, you did that once before.